The Bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki by Demarcus Ford. Let us begin. It all began with the Manhattan Project. Before the start of the World War II, in 1939, many scientists fled the ever-growing threat of fascism growing within Europe by migrating to the United States. Still concerned about a growing popularity of fascism, scientists in the 1940s cooperated with the United States government to build an atomic weapons program to surpass that of the Nazi Germans. Under the supervision of the Office of Scientific Research and Development with the War Department after entering World War II, the atomic weapon program would become to know as the Manhattan Project. Under the construction of the U.S. Army, Corps of Engineer, Corps of Engineers, and a couple of years of hard work, scientists were working on producing the main ingredients for their nuclear fission bomb, that being uranium-235 and plutonium-239, with J. Robert Oppenheim leading the charge. Eventually, on July 16, 1945, the Manhattan Project held its first successful test on the atomic device, a plutonium bomb, at the Trinity Test Site at Abago, New Mexico. When surrender wasn't an option. With the Trinity test underway and the Germans' defeat in Europe at the hands of the Allied powers, only thing left was for Japan to surrender. Unfortunately, Japan vowed to never give up the Pacific, and they chose to fight to the bitter end with the odds heavily weighed against them. As the Allied casualties occurred between April and July 1945, more calls for Japan to surrender were projected. The Allied powers would proceed to threaten Japan with a prompt and utter destruction if they had not surrendered soon. This stalemate between the Allied powers and Japan would eventually lead to military leaders like General Douglas MacArthur, to suggest a bomb raid that would be followed up by a full-scale invasion of Japan, codenamed Operation Downfall. Due to the president predicted high casualty estimate about 1 million U.S. troops, Truman opted to use the Manhattan Project's atomic bombs, to the dismay of the Secretary of War, Henry Stimson, General Dwight Eisenhower, and a number of Manhattan Project scientists, for a quick end to the war. However, there were others like the Secretary of State James Brines, who was infatuated in not only how the United States could use atomic bombs to end the war, but also in how it could be placed the United States as the world superpower post-World War II. An Atomic Little Boy and Fat Man. Hiroshima was chosen to be the U.S.'s first target for the atomic bombs due to its being a manufacturing hub with 350,000 residents and it being 500 miles from Tokyo. Loaded with over 9,000-pound uranium-235 bomb, a modified B-29 bomber named Eleanor Gay took the bomb and dropped it by parachute at 8:15 in the morning to explode 2,000 feet above Hiroshima. Little Boy, as it was named, had a blast yield of equivalent to 2 to 15,000 tons of TNT that destroyed 5 square miles of the city. Hiroshima's destruction would not budge Japan's resolve to surrender until August 9th, where a pilot major named Charles Sweeney flew over with another B-29 bomber called the Boxcar over the city of Kokara. Boxcar and Sweeney would go on to drop the plutonium bomb Fat Man at 11:02 on an unsuspecting Nagasaki. This was due mostly to the dense clouds that covered Kokara. With more than a little boy, the 10,000-pound Fat Man will release a 22 kiloton blast wrecking 2.6 square miles of Nagasaki due to Nagasaki's topography. The Feast 7 Day. On noon, August 15, 1945, the Emperor Hirohito would go on to announce his country's surrender via the radio broadcast. News of Japan's defeat had spread quickly, and amongst the celebration, soldiers and troops rallied around and declared victory in Japan, or VJ Day, and celebrations broke out all across the United States and other allied nations. The formal surrender agreement was signed on September 2nd aboard the U.S. battleship Missouri, which was anchored in Tokyo Bay. The aftermath. Devastation as far as the eye can see. Just for a second, put yourself in Truman's shoes. Having to weigh in a quick, decisive end to the war versus in your troops not as many as your troops dying versus the hundreds of thousands of lives within Japan at Nagasaki and at Hiroshima. Over a rough estimate of 70,000 to 135,000 people died due to the Hiroshima bomb, and 60 to 80,000 people died in Nagasaki. Both were due to either acute exposure to the blast or like long-term side effects from radiation. These were non-combatants for the most part. Those people who just were in like the manufacturing plant making materials for the war. It makes you wonder something. Do you think that Japan would have been better if they had already surrendered? Thank you for watching my presentation, and hope y'all have a good day. Bye.